Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar, Small Business Planning and Growth, presented by our USBC partner, Truist. I'm your host, Philip W. Dunn, Program Manager with the USBC, and on behalf of our President, Ron Busby, our board, and our staff, I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued support of USBC and your support of our sponsors and partners. Now, today I'm joined by representatives from our very special partner, Truist. We at the USBC are very proud of this partnership with Truist as they are working to inspire and build better lives in communities by empowering their clients with more choices, more fulfillment, and more hope in our communities. We share in their belief in the power that what we can all achieve together, we can achieve together. This is perfectly aligned with our ambitions at the USBC as we work tirelessly to create opportunities and improve outcomes for Black-owned businesses just like yours. Today's representatives, T. Weaver and Ivan Martinez, will share messaging on the importance of ongoing business planning and some of the elements involved in developing effective business plans for growth and sustainability. I also want to give a special shout out to Shanaria Ashley, who is one of the VPs at Truist. So I want you all to take plenty of notes today and listen into some of the key messages that are going to come out from our representatives. And just a few housekeeping items before we begin. You all are encouraged to network within the comments feature, share information about your business, your website information, your social information. You're also encouraged to ask questions by using the Q&A feature for any questions that you all may have. Now, we'll make sure that all of those relevant questions are answered and shared with the folks at Truist for their response where possible. And then the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to ask you all to visit the USBC website and take a look at some of our on-demand resources, some of our live webinar opportunities that we have available. Next week, we will begin releasing our webinar schedule for Black Business Month, in which Truist will also be providing more valuable information for our member businesses. And we're also going to have two webinars from Truist later in August entitled Thursday's Edge. And those are scheduled for August 12th and August 19th. So lastly, I want to just make sure that you all don't share any sensitive information such as bank account information or any transactional information in the chat. And then with that said, I'm going to kick off this event with a short video from our sponsor, Truist, and then we're going to introduce our representatives from Truist. So hang tight and give us a couple of seconds to get the video going.
I've learned that big things often have small beginnings. We are the first to arrive in the morning, the last to leave at the end of the day, and the only ones who don't get a regular paycheck. Owning a small business requires a commitment beyond punching a clock. You're thinking about it or doing something about it all the time. Owning a small business isn't for the faint of heart. It's for the brave, the patient, and the persistent. We know businesses have varying needs, but there are certain things all businesses need to consider. That's why BB&T has designed a hands-on class called Growing Your Business. You'll learn the most critical elements of business ownership, such as separating your personal and business finances, effectively managing your cash flow, the right technology to keep your business up to date, credit options to consider when the need arises, the importance of insurance, things to consider when hiring employees. This class is no cost and will take between 1 and 2 hours. It includes the following: a BB&T professional to act as the on-site coach for the class, an instructional video to watch with breaks for participant discussion and exercises, a participant workbook for each attendee, an opportunity to meet and network with other business owners and share ideas. As you progress through the class, you will be asked to complete worksheets and work with other attendees to help you master the topics presented. Plus, you will be able to ask your on-site coach questions and learn from other business owners. Your BB&T professional will work with you to set up a date and time to present this free financial knowledge class. We look forward to partnering with you to help you grow your business.
All right, I'm going to let that video finish out so as you can read the information there on the screen. And then I am going to introduce to you all our speakers from Truist Bank. All right, we have two very dynamic representatives from Truist today, and I'm going to introduce them, and then I'm going to have them share a little bit of information about themselves, and then I'll bring up the presentation that they'll share today. First up is Ivan Martinez. How are you today, Ivan?
Pretty well, Philip. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for being here. And then next up, we have T. Weaver, who is in Charlotte, North Carolina. How are you, T?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm doing great. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great, doing great. And I forgot to mention that Ivan is in Germantown, Maryland. So he's also on the East Coast as well. So really to joining us on today. I'm going to turn it over to them. And as they introduce themselves, I'm going to bring up their presentation that they're going to be sharing on today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Philip. Thank you, everyone, for having us here today. Once again, my name is T. Weaver, and I am a wealth business advisor here with Truist. I've been with the company for over 10 years now, and throughout my tenure here, I've held several different positions, from managing the branches to working with small business clients such as yourself. And then also into my recent role, I work with our commercial clients who have $10 million and more in business value. And I help them plan for retirement and help them with everything that they need to do as far as transitioning out of the business and leaving a legacy for their family. So throughout this process, I've had the opportunity to go back to school and get a master's in wealth and trust management. And I was joking with everyone before we got on the call, and I'm in the process of studying for the CFP right now. So all of this notebooks and things that you may see on the screen here is my study material. But I'm excited to be here. We really want this event to be, open, positive. Do not be shy to throw any questions inside the chat box. And another fun fact about me, I love to work out, I love to travel, and I'm a huge Marvel's fan. So anybody who loves Disney, you guys are my people. So thank you so much for having us here. And I'm excited to share information with you guys today. I'll hand it over to Ivan to introduce himself.
Thank you, Tia. I appreciate it. So my name is Ivan Martinez. It is an absolute pleasure to be here today, to be able to present this to you. I'm so glad to be here. I have been in banking, a little bit about myself, for 24 years now. I've done a lot of different facets of the bank. I'm currently a branch cluster leader, managing a branch for SunTrust and a branch for BB&T. And I look forward to speaking with you in regards to how to hopefully better your business and to be able to guide you in what we do a little bit to try to help you guys out. That's what we're here for. And a little bit about me, I'm a huge Marvel fan as well, so I'm going to copy that from T. But, I'm a huge NFL fan. Hopefully you guys won't count that against me, Washington fan. So that's a little bit about me.
Great. Thank you both for that introduction. And I now have your presentation pulled up and shared on the screen. Ivan, we're going to forgive you for being a Washington Football Club fan. And we will accept that you are both Marvel's fans. So we're really, really excited to have you both.
Thank you. So this right here is what we consider our foundation, our core at Truist. So as many of you know now, Truist and BB&T BB&T and SunTrust merged together to become Truist. And our belief is in our purpose to inspire and build better lives and communities, as Mr. Dunn was so kind to mention earlier, which goes into our mission and serving our clients, our teammates, and our stakeholders, built upon our foundation of our values, which is being trustworthy to each one of our members above, being caring, working together as one team, not only with our stakeholders and our teammates, but more importantly with our clients, hand in hand, like you business owners and businesses, to help them grow so they can achieve the success that will ultimately bring you the happiness that we all deserve. So anything that we can do here today to answer any questions, we wish to show you what our foundations and what our core is through this slide. That's why it's important for you guys to see that today. So in today's session, what we're going to cover for you is kind of like a course description, similar to what the video mentioned, some of its learning objectives, the difference in how personal banking and business banking overall works, and how to keep them separate, which is extremely important. What you're going to need to potentially open up a business account, at a bank of your choice. How cash flow is an essential piece in any business. From the cash flow foundations, we're going to show you what a cash flow statement sort of looks like. We're going to touch upon it, and how to optimize your cash flow to be able to help your business. How to also merchant services, how to increase and streamline that cash flow. How do I receive money much faster versus slowing it down in terms of payments? Borrowing solutions. And we're going to have a little fun. We're going to have a little bit of a knowledge check and kind of quiz you guys, see if you guys are paying attention. Then playing a little matching game. We're going to talk a little bit about insurance and employees, and that'll be answered more in the questions from whatever you have, because that sometimes can be every scenario can be a little bit different. And then we're going to talk about the next steps.
So as it relates to launching your business, there are several important steps to take into doing that. So we wanted to highlight some of those steps. So the first step would be to do market research. It is extremely important to know the demographic, to understand your audience in the products and services that you're looking to give to your audience as well. So one example that I think of is Starbucks. As you can see, I'm drinking coffee. I need to have at least 1 cup of coffee a day. But when I am heading into work, or before COVID, when we had to actually travel into the office, when I'm going to Starbucks, it has to be in the direction where it's going to be easy, convenient, and it's not a hassle to pull in and pull out. So actually, I've spoke to someone that understands surveying of the interstate and how different companies determine where they're going to position their location. And one of the things that they share with me was that Starbucks actually does market research to determine the time of day as it relates to traffic, when people are going into work, what side of the road that they want to place their actual facilities. So they're doing the actual research to make sure that they're placing these facilities in areas that's going to generate revenue for them, but also be convenient for their clients. So it's always important to do market research, understanding your demographic, understanding your competitors, right? So making sure you understand in the area that you're in, or even on e-commerce, who would be your competitor, and making sure that you have all the research necessary in order to have a successful business. So that is step number 1, is research, research, research. Someone told me that Google is your friend. So Google a lot of things, research, keep writing things down, and make sure that you understand the industry that you're going into before you put yourself out there as it relates to your business. The second step is to have a business plan. I am infamous for messing up sayings. So if I mess this saying up, I apologize. But if you don't have a plan, you're basically planning to fail, right? So creating a business plan is very important because it allows you to articulate your ideas on a piece of paper and execute on those ideas. So with that being said, it's also important to have a business plan when you're coming to the bank for any type of funding. We like to see our clients have those ideas written down, have those ideas, the cost of things. How much would it cost to build out a certain facility? We want to make sure that you've done your research and your homework before we lend money to you. So it goes into the next topic of funding your business. There are several ways to fund your business when you are starting out throughout the process of even growing your business. Typically, when you're starting out, what you may have to do is utilize your own equity to pour into the company, but making sure that you're keeping those things separated, which we will talk about later inside the presentation. So funding the business is, you want to definitely have a business plan in place. You want to understand the cost of things, and all because of your market research, you will understand all of that. And then you also want to pick a location. Where do you want to be? Do you want brick and mortar, or do you want e-commerce, or both? In the world that we're in today, technology is amazing. Look at us. We're doing a Zoom meeting, right? 2020 has done so much for us as it relates to convenience. So e-commerce are important as well. Making sure you understand how to put your product out there. You have different sites now, such as Shopify, Amazon, Etsy, different sites of that nature that you can sell your product on. So what I also tell business owners is, do you really need an actual location that would cost the overhead, right? So thinking about your product, your service, and what you're putting out there in the market, and really evaluating, do you need an actual facility? Because the overhead costs, like insurance, building out the actual location will cost additional funds. Or can you operate in an e-commerce type of environment? The next topic would be business structure, deciding how you want to structure your business. This is important for tax purposes as well, and we always tell you to consult with your CPA to determine that. But there's different ways that you can structure your business, as doing business as an LLC, corporation, or even a partnership. Now, this next topic is truly, truly important to me, choosing a business name. You always want to make sure your name of your business reflects what your business actually does, right? So for example, outside of Truist, I own my own financial literacy company teaching financial literacy to kids. It is a nonprofit. So the goal is to really educate our children on financial literacy and financial wellness, but also provide them with scholarship funds as well. So the name of my company is called The Fly Foundation. It's a catchy title. It's amazing. The logo is amazing, but FLY stands for Financial Literacy for Our Youth. I actually had to hire someone outside of marketing to help me generate the name, help me generate the colors, the actual logo, to make it appealing for children, right? So if I had something else different, I don't know, maybe a race car or something as the logo, would it really make sense? Would it really be catchy? The logo itself is fly with an airplane, paper airplane flying away, like you're growing, you're elevating. And that marketing agent was able to help me think of those ideas. So it's important to understand how to choose a business name, making sure that it's fitting your business, but also that it's not offensive. So give you an example, Michael B. Jordan, amazing actor. He looks amazing as well. But Michael B. Jordan just came out with some liqueur, alcohol, and it was offensive to a certain community. So someone did not do step one, which is market research, and he had to come out and apologize and change the name of his brand. So it's always important before you do all of the business name and planning and all of those things to do the market research. And then registering your business, getting a federal tax ID number, and applying for your license and permits are next steps as well that kind of go hand in hand. With doing this, there's a lot of companies out there that may charge you to actually implement these three things for you, but I want to let you know it is free. The IRS will allow you to just go on irs.gov, and we have some resources at the end of this presentation that will allow you to do this free. Okay, so you have a lot of companies out there that would say, hey, I'll get you your federal tax ID, state tax ID, register your business, apply for all your license and permits, but I'm going to charge you $2,000 to do so. I always encourage my clients, if you have the funds to do that and you just do not want to do it at all, sure, allocate the money to do that. But if you have the time and you have the resources that you can research and you can save that money to put it into your business, I would encourage you to do that. And last but not least, opening up a business bank account. That's how you start to really build credibility for your business and allow your business to go ahead and start applying for business credit under the business. But also when you consider opening up that business account, consider the best bank in town, which is Truist. So our next topic that I want to discuss is on my wheelhouse. So the essential elements of wealth. Wealth is extremely important. There are 5 factors that I came up with that I feel an individual will open up a business for, right? When you start a business. Those 5 factors consist of purpose. Every single day, I get an opportunity when my feet hit the ground to live in my purpose. I don't know if you hear the passion in my voice, but I love what I do on a day-to-day basis with Truist, and that's providing our clients with wealth planning, right? So particularly people open up businesses because they feel like that's their purpose in life. And then secondly, they have a passion for whatever they're trying to create, whatever business that they're trying to create. And thirdly, independence. Who wants, who does not want to wake up in the morning and say, okay, you know what? I'll go to work at 11 o'clock if I feel like it, right? So with that being said, people open up businesses for different reasons. And that the third one was independence. The fourth one is legacy, leaving something behind for your generation, whether it's your children, your grandchildren, your mom, your dad, whomever, is leaving a legacy, something that you generated from the beginning. And last is wealth. So on the screen here, you'll see that there's a saying or a sentence here that says, there is an art to prioritizing competing goals. Competing goals. Inside a business, when you open up a business, there's going to be 50 million things thrown at you from the business side. And then you have to encompass the personal side as well. So these are competing goals, but what we have to do is prioritize those things, right? Make sure we understand urgent and important, or just important but not urgent. And then determining how various actions might impact each other, and coming up with a plan that aligns specific financial decisions to your goals and your values. So what I love when I have conversations with my clients, you'll see that in this presentation, in the middle of all of these elements is a person, a shadow of a person. And within that, that person is going to need the banking needs, the investment needs. They need to understand the risks associated with their wealth management, planning, estate planning, fiduciary, philanthropy, even learning, governance, and also wealth administration. So all these things that I talk about on the personal side can definitely be applied to the business side as well. In our next slide here, I'm just going to just a little high level. I thought this was important to include because as you guys grow your business and you become a billion-dollar company, I'm speaking it into existence for you. When you become a billion-dollar company, you may need to know how you should structure your deposits and what is FDIC insured, what is not, and if you want to open up a trust account or a fiduciary account, what it really consists of. So number one is, where should your deposits be held or assets be held? Within the bank, right? Anything above $250,000 per individual per bank is not insured by the FDIC insurance. You also have the brokerage accounts as well. Anything that is invested in the market, you are exposing yourself to risk, but there is also protection on brokerage accounts as well, up to $500,000 per individual as well. And then you have your trust accounts and fiduciary accounts as well. And those types of accounts are structured for tax purposes. So I always recommend individuals talk to their CPAs as it relates to that. And then you also have custodial accounts as well. So I kind of wanted to just high level that and include that in this presentation so you guys can read over it later, but did not want to go too much into detail into the weeds. The next topic is one of my favorites. I always tell my clients, you keep those business and personal accounts separate, okay? Make sure you separate how you're organizing the growth of your business. So often we want to take our personal assets and just buy business stuff with it, but don't keep track of it. So I'll give you an example. For my financial literacy company that is a nonprofit, I wanted to create products that I could sell to generate scholarship funds for my students. In doing so, I took my own personal money and I donated it to my nonprofit through the website, through my donation website, and I got a certificate or a piece of paper that says you donated money to Fly. That money then went inside a business account, and every activity that I needed to do in order to purchase these products, I paid for on my business credit card. So what that did was that allowed me two things. It allowed me to donate money to my organization, right? That could be considered as a tax write-off. That's my personal money going into business, which is separating it. And then I use the business credit card to purchase the actual products that will be sold for the students for scholarship funds. Using that credit card allowed me to build business credit, and it allowed me to gain reward points so I can continue to travel as much as I love to travel, okay? So with that being said, it allowed me to separate these things. So often when you're starting a business, you do have to put in sweat equity, but also monetary equity as well. And what I encourage people to do is, if you're not doing some type of donation, you can actually loan your business money, keep track of it, because your business then can pay you back, okay? So that's how you're separating out of the two. You can get a business credit card established once you open up that banking account, and you can have a personal credit card, but you want to keep it separate. And you definitely want to work with a CPA and or attorney to establish the legal business entity to stay legally compliant. And once again, like I mentioned earlier, there's so many different types of businesses. You have the doing business as, which is really still under your social security number. And I only recommend people do a DBA if there's no liability. Like, think about it. If you're in the process and you're going to create, let's say, a candle, right? A candle company. You don't want to operate as a doing business as, because if you create a candle company and something happens and it burns someone's arm or something, I don't know, God forbid, you don't want them to come after your personal assets because it's all under your social. So anything that you feel that you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself from, you want to make sure you structure it as a limited liability company, which is an LLC, a corporation, or a limited partnership. Okay. So DBA, you have the taxes are paid under the owner's Social Security. So all liability stays with the owner. An LLC, incorporation, or a LP, which is a limited partnership, the taxes are paid under the company's tax ID number, and it shifts to the business itself. Another common thing is real estate. I love real estate, but another common thing where you'll see that people will open up an LLC is when they have real estate holdings. Merely because if someone walks on your property and they decide that they want to trip over brick that is just sticking out of the ground a centimeter, and they break an arm, or they fall and they scratch their arm, and they decide that they want to sue you, and you're not structured as an LLC, they can actually come after your personal assets. Another important factor, and it's not on this slide, but I felt the need to share because it just popped in my mind, is to have umbrella insurance. This is an insurance that covers you in multiple aspects of your life. And lastly, I am not a tax advisor, so I have some great advisors here in Charlotte, but I always tell my clients, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to making sure that your business is structured correctly as it relates to income taxes, consult with your tax advisor and or accountant. There's 5 people that I tell, what I used to tell my business clients that are important, and I think is important for anybody to have in their corner, is your banker. Number 1, your banker would be that person that keeps you updated on any changes that happen at the bank. They are your primary source, your primary contact person. They know lending like the back of their hands. I know I did. So anytime that there was a guideline change or a new product that came out, I was the first one calling my business clients to say, hey, I just want you to know our guidelines have changed. Do you need lending? Tell me how I can restructure some things for you. Here's the checking account. Here's the savings account. Here's what we have here at Truist for you. The second thing is to have an attorney. I'm not saying have the attorney on payroll because they are very, very expensive, but have an attorney that you can call to run things by. Have a person that you can call to make sure that you're within compliance. The third person would be a CPA, of course, for the obvious reasons. The fourth person would be an insurance strategist, making sure that you're covering yourself in all aspects of your life, even in the personal side. And then lastly, a financial advisor, someone who's going to help you with your investment strategies and investment needs. And as stated previously, when it comes to you being a business owner, the business owner has a social security number, date of birth, full personal address, ID, and your percentage of ownership. And then for the business, and I want you to think of T. Weaver is the business owner. And then D Weaver is the actual business. So 2 separate people. So we're operating as 2 separate entities. So D Weaver is an employee, that business would actually need an employee identification number, federal tax ID number, and actual articles of incorporations, the issue date, a business address, and then also current bank information. So we want to keep these 2 things separate. And by the way, D Weaver is my sister's name. And I definitely want to keep things separate from her. So I always want to use examples so it'll stick with you guys as you're growing your business.
Now, guys, we're getting into an important section that kind of segues from what T was mentioning to you guys, right? You know, we talked about earlier, keeping your personal and your business completely separate, and that comes to your cash flow. We all get into business, right, because we have a passion for what we do. We like what we do. This is what we love. But in the end, we got to get paid, right? So this right here is where cash flow foundations comes in, because the importance of how you collect your money every day and how you're making your payments and how you control the cash going in and out of your business is essential, especially in that business account when you get started, right? You know, this is part of what I love to do every day. One of my passions is to teach not only my employees, my friends, my families, but the business owners that come in and I see every single day. I get to see all of you guys every single day. I love hearing about how your kids are going, how's everything going, but I love hearing about your business. I love seeing the growth in your business. So when I sit down with any of my business owners, the first thing I ask them is, how is the cash flow going? Do you know how to manage it? And I love the fact when I first see a client come in and they have this brightness about them when they're talking about their business as if it was one of their children, you know, and they have a plan. This is what I want to do. And then we start talking and they start finding out, well, I haven't really thought about how I'm going to get paid yet. You know, they're so passionate about the plan. They're so passionate about, they've opened the business, they've done the registration. To T's point, we've gotten the tax IDs. We've applied for the entity. We're already an LLC. So the key part about any cash flow is understanding what product am I going to offer? How fast am I going to get the return in terms of the payment for that offer? For example, if I'm a general contractor, I know that if I'm going to remodel a deck and I have several jobs, that may take me a couple of weeks to 3 weeks to potentially complete that assignment, right? So which means that I have to plan that I have enough cash in my bank account to cover the payroll for the guys that are going to be doing the job for me, that are going to be the wood that I'm going to need for the deck, all the foundations, everything, the permits, everything that I need to have that in my bank account already, even before I get paid. So how am I going to do that if I'm fronting it all from my own personal account? I'm going to run out of money on the personal side of my cash flow things. So how do you manage your business is important. So the first part is collecting money. So how do you get paid? Do I only accept cash and checks? Do I take debit and credit cards, which we're going to talk about merchant services in a second? Do I collect wire transfers? Or ACH, what the acronym means in banking is automatic clearinghouse. And what that is you collect automatic payments. Hopefully your business gets large enough where we offer treasury management services that will allow you to automatically collect funds from your clientele when they need to make a payment or you send them the invoice, right? And then making your payments. Do I write checks? Am I from the old school, registering with my little register, right? Or do I do everything through my online banking? Do I pay using commercial credit cards? Key point, commercial, business credit cards. Again, keeping personal debt away from business debt. It's essential, okay? Do I do automatic transfers? Do I use the bill pay that is given to you for free within the business banking account that we will open for you? And then do I use services, i.e. ADP or check systems or other payroll services, even through your banks, to make those payments where you as the business owner, all you have to do is allot the hours that Ivan and T work today, and they will do the work for you depending on the type of employee, which we mentioned earlier, if they're contracted employees or they're W-2 employees, right? So understanding how your money goes in and how the money goes out is important. So you always want to get paid faster, correct? and you always want to slow down the amount of money that is going out. Why? Because, for example, one of the things in the center where you see the little house is a foundation. It talks about your deposit accounts, your primary, then I have a payroll account maybe, then I have a savings account to cover any cash flow shortages in between what is called the receivables, meaning in between my payments that I'm going to receive, and how does that tie into personal accounts? One example is many banks, including us, will go ahead and compensate you or reward you for having a business account. We give you a free personal account that comes with perks. Another is, always when I explain to my clients, especially like today, I saw one of my business owners, they had large balances in their checking account, which is great, in their business checking account. But one of the things that I mentioned to him was, the one thing about having one business checking account is you're commingling funds for many things. Tax payments, as I mentioned before, your insurance payments, payroll, which is essential, right? If you can't pay your people, the odds are for your business is not going to last long because finding good people is hard. And more importantly, your tax payments, your quarterly tax payments. If you commingle all those funds into one particular account, what happens if you have shortfalls? Look what happened in the pandemic. Sometimes you have to pull from savings if you had it and you planned accordingly to be able to survive during those shortfalls. And we'll get to lending in a little bit later. But it's always good to have one or two accounts, depending on, to T's point, what your tax advisor also indicates that you should have. Because trust me, they're the ones that are calling you at the end of the year or every quarter, pulling your tax statement, you're pulling your bank statements because they need to account for what you paid for payroll, what you paid for supplies, expenses. Why? Because those could be potential business deductions that will help you in the long run when it comes to tax time, right? So believe it or not, sometimes keeping those items separate, they're going to love you for it. They're going to be your best buddy because you're going to make their life so much easier saying, nope, this account is in particular for my receivables. This account is particular for my taxes that I have to pay quarterly. This is to pay T and her payroll, Philip too, because he gets mad at me if I don't pay him on time. So this money is set specifically for these things. And then you have your main operating account, okay? So it is important that when you sit with your branch manager, your business banker, when you walk into your local branch, like me, then, you every once in a while, at least I always recommend every quarter or every 6 months, just kind of reviewing, to T's point earlier, which is a very good one, any guideline changes, anything that is upcoming. Right now, BB&T and SunTrust merged together to become Truist. And though our technological aspect is not fully there yet, there's many things on the BB&T side that is coming over to the SunTrust side, i.e. lines of credits, new business credit cards with a lot of benefits and promotions giving you cash rewards for using those cards, right? So it is important to understand what's available to me. No, and trust me, we're not always trying to sell you. Believe it or not, we're here to try to help you. That is our job. That is what I love to do the most. I was talking to T earlier this morning in preparation for this call, going back to what she said about being a Marvel fan. I love movies. I have a passion for them. But every client that I meet, every person is a good book and a good story. Whether, unfortunately, it started out as a negative story or if it started out as a good story, at the end, everybody in my mind brings value to this world. So I love learning about what you do, what your passions are. So that is why I love to educate my business owners, because just like I love to hear about your kids and where they're going to school, I also like to see where your business is going. And I'd love to visit your business if I can and help you. So here is a little bit going into the cash flow. So we created this diagram to show you cash deposits, which you normally come and visit, me and my team to make your deposits in cash. Credit and debit card services, otherwise known as merchant services. Merchant services are usually offered by your bank and by some other outside companies as well, but this is designed, remember, on the how you get paid side of things, how to collect money faster. If I have the ability to collect with a credit card, what's happening right now in the pandemic? It's a lot of people don't want to be touching things, right? We want to avoid having to touch other people's cards, in particular cash that has been circulated in many different ways. So right now, I've had a lot of clients that have never offered credit card before say, listen, I have clients that have asked me if they can tap their card on my phone or on my little cash register that I have in my business, because they don't want to have to exchange that in their hand. But more, that's brought in from the pandemic in terms of safety, but more importantly for cash flow, if I can go ahead and swipe my card and then get the money the next day, it not only saves you time as a business owner, so you don't have to continually come into the bank to make the deposits. The money is usually in your account within 24 to 48 hours after that transaction is done. Check deposits. The banks are now facilitating things for you where you can do a lot of things online. So, with your phone, you can take pictures and make the deposits directly from your phone. Incoming wires that we talked about are electronic payments, those automatic payments. Those could be set up through Treasury Management or right directly with your banker at the bank to allow you to collect those funds electronically. Now, on the cash out side of things in the other bubble, how often do you write checks, right? And why checks are important. Checks take time. If I go and I buy something from you, paying for a check, it takes time for you to collect on that, possibly the next day or the following. But a lot of it is based on you. If you're out there doing your business, if I'm a contractor, painter, landscaper, I'm in construction, or I'm even a nonprofit like T, sometimes by the time I collect the checks to the time that I have to drive to go to the bank may take 3 or 4 days. And then on top of that, you have to wait until those checks and funds clear, depending upon where the check is from. So now you're literally saying, okay, I received these checks on Monday. More than likely, by the time I get to the bank and the funds are available to me, you're looking at it, it's Thursday, because it's based on your time. So now you're involving time as well as the funds being available in your account. Card payments, business card. Going back to T's presentation again earlier, it is key to develop business credit, right? Yes, you have very good credit on the personal side of things, but you also want your business to be out there in terms of the credit that is built under that business. So you would be as the guarantor of the card, but the card will be based on the actual annual revenue and the financials of the business, which in turn will allow you to go ahead and make payments with your credit card for not only expenses for your business, supplies, maybe bills for the business, but guess what? That you can postpone the payment of the actual dollars that need to be paid on a credit card for later, allowing you to conserve more cash in your account to cover payroll, as an example, or to pay your taxes. So again, you're transitioning that cash flow from having cash. I just use my credit card, which I don't have to pay at the end of the month, but I'm also getting that receivables, meaning that payment from the deck job that I just did. So I'm going to cover that immediately as soon as I get that payment. Having that structure and controlling the time of how your money goes in and out helps you believe it or not, using your business credit card to stave off that cash that I know I'm going to need for the other things that are short term right now. Outgoing wires. Sometimes you will hire subcontractors, or you will hire other folks that if you land a job, as you get bigger, as we all hope all businesses do, you may expand from going from your locality where you may have a contract on a job that is in New York and I'm living in Washington. So I need to be able to pay my subcontractors in New York. Are you going to drive 4.5 hours to give them a check? And by the time they go to the bank and make the deposit, that's not usually a good thing. But so they'll say, you know what, Ivan, go ahead and send me a wire transfer. Here's my bank account. And that way you can immediately cover that expense, and it goes directly from your bank account into their bank account to allow them to be able to progress and start that job in New York to help your business, okay? Electronic vendor payments and direct deposit of payroll. So similar to going back to the payroll of companies like ADPs or Paychecks, that these are the companies that will go ahead and do your payroll for you. Once you understand how the money that is coming in based on the jobs, you also have to account, again, having a separate account, remember, for the payroll that you know that they're going to do every Friday, for example. One of the examples that I use here is one of our payroll service companies requires you that if tomorrow's the 30th, it's the end of the month. They want you by Wednesday to go in and say, okay, Philip worked 40, T worked 35, Ivan worked 31 hours. They need you to do that by Wednesday so they have enough time to account for all the payroll taxes and everything if they're W-2 employees, or or if they're 1099, just to be able to account and be able to account that for the end of year reporting that your employees are going to need to do their taxes. And of course, they get paid through direct deposit, which who doesn't like to wake up in the morning on a Friday morning on payday and see that the money's in the account already? I do. If it ain't there, we got a problem, right? So again, the importance of the cash flow piece is to show I need to control the money going in as well as the money going out. And not only that, but I need to know when in timing things are happening. And I need to keep things separate. Many banks accounts, and I forgot to mention this in the previous slide, but in many banks will offer accounts that are completely free, where, as a business, you may not have to keep a minimum balance, but may have to do a certain number of transactions per month, as an example. But you don't have to no longer keep thousands of dollars in the accounts. That's why it's good to understand these guidelines, meet with your bankers, because it's okay to start with one business account. Again, we're just starting out in reality. But you also want to think about, how do I separate these things and be prepared? This is a cash flow statement that we included. It just helps you kind of gather your thoughts about how your cash flow is moving in and out. So I talked about controlling that and understanding what that would be. But here it kind of gives you an idea of, how do I get that information? I get that question a lot where it says, I want to go ahead and understand, where's my money coming from? Am I getting it from cash? Are there any other forms of payments that I'm getting, and when? So this tells you I'm getting cash receipts from my cash sales, returns on allowances, from accounts receivable, any loan proceeds, and then what am I paying out as a company? T mentioned earlier, she hired a marketing company to be able to create an awesome name, by the way, T, Fly, right? So how much am I spending on advertising? How much am I going, to paying for any commissions and fees for any of the investment pieces that I have or any of the accounts that I'm, trying to grow and save for my business? So these, again, it's a kind of a high overview as an example of how you would start calculating your cash flow, what's money going in, what's money going out. More importantly, going back to the pandemic, how can I save now? Am I spending too much, right? So many companies, as they grow, they will pay an advertiser. So, for example, Xfinity and some of these local cable companies, that you can pay them for local coverage to promote your business. But right now in the pandemic, if things are slow, can I cut that expense and maybe use social media, use Twitter, use Facebook, different ways where there's many more eyes going into the internet where a lot of people are being at home, so I can cut that expense, right? Wages. Am I spending too much in wages when right now I'm not having to pay as many hours? As a business owner, we all have hearts. We want to pay our people. But at the same time, if the business is not there, can I go ahead and potentially analyze, am I paying too much in wages? Am I paying too much in utilities? Obviously, the offices are sitting empty. Let's go ahead and analyze if I need to contact the utility company and rework maybe a deal or any plan. Because you want to make sure that, again, it's not only about controlling the cash flow, it's about saving the money in the accounts so you pay less, okay? So this is, again, delving similar to what I was talking about before. So you're looking at inventory turnover in your cash flow. So how much, going back to T's example, I love the candle. So if I'm making a lot of candles, what's the point of me keeping a ton of candles in the back room if they're not leaving? What's the cost of me keeping that, right? So how fast am I selling these candles? From the time of production to analyze my unit cost of making these candles, the wax or whatever I'm going to do, the smells, and then being able to sell them. Is it too slow? Because am I spending too much money in making too much inventory versus advertising to going out and selling these things? So maybe I don't have to make so many candles, right? Collections and accounts receivable, billing efficiency, incentive for early payment. So if I invoice out to a company or to my clients, and I tell them, well, this is due in 30 days, But you receive a 20% discount if I receive the payments within 20 days in my next, commercial project for you. So incentivizing your people to pay you is important. Here's another good example. So I work with a merchant services representative who was telling me for all the retail stores that he has the merchant services with, how many of us like rewards, right? So whether, Starbucks, going back to these, right? Whenever you spend, you earn a little bit of points. Eventually you get that free venti, cup of latte for free, especially when you need it in tough mornings, right? But those reward points are built into the system. So he, for example, was telling me about a program where if I'm a business owner, my merchant services will advise me if the client downloads an application when they're walking in the door. I may not have seen you for months and remember your name, but it'll pop up on the screen to say, "Hey, T, how you doing? Nice to see you again." It'll say T. Weaver has arrived because she offers that reward program, or it has a reward program. So it incentivizes the client to come back into your store because you're offering them rewards. So that way you can collect your receivables much faster and get paid faster. Accounts payable, using accounting software. With the banks usually, have obviously your online banking, but things like Quicken or QuickBooks. Many small business owners like that because it coincides and you can program it with your online banking to transfer some of the data on your statements into your QuickBooks, and it allows you to manage it. It's quick and easy. One of the things that I always talk to my business, and I see a lot of my business owners, is they're very good at what they do. But the hardest part is going home after a hard day's work, after 8 to 12 hours of working outside in 98-degree heat, in construction, landscaping, whatever you see fit, and have to sit down in front of a computer to start analyzing your cash flow, right? Or, I need to make this payment. 9 times out of 10, they tell me to fall asleep, right? So they don't get to it until the following day and things are delayed. So understanding using accounting software to help you and speed things up for your accounts payable is essential. Separate business expenses to personal expenses. We already talked about that. Why is it important when I go to Home Depot as a contractor to use my business credit card versus my personal credit card? What happens if I have to provide an audit and I show my statements and I say, no, this was for that deck job that I did for T about 2 months ago. And they're going to say, well, this was on your personal credit card. How do we know that? But at least you have more credibility as a business. And not only that, for potential business expenses, because it's a cost of doing business to show it using on your credit card. Consider outsourcing payroll and accounts receivable. There are companies, as we mentioned before, like ADP, that will do this for you. Again, saving you time for you to concentrate more on your actual day-to-day operations of your business. So your business model may need to adapt post-COVID-19. So similar to payroll, if I go home at the end of the night, or I pick a day where this is my day of my office day, you can transfer a lot of this data electronically to some of these outsourced companies where they will gather the information for you and therefore be able to process it without you having to take actual paper, touching envelopes, going to the post office, touching handles. That's one of the ways that you're going to adapt to it, especially now in the reality of COVID-19. And then cash and merchant terminal touch concerns. We just talked about that. We want to be cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of people, many of your clients are walking into your stores, to your businesses, that are still asking you about masks. Do I have to wear a mask when I come and see you? They're still asking you, can I pay you over the phone with a credit card? Or, again, going back to my earlier example, if I have Google Pay, Apple Pay, can I touch my card without actually physically having it to hand it to you, right? Talk to your bankers like me when we in the local branches. They could advise you on the merchant services on the cost, and at the end of the day, it benefits you too, as it's not going to pay. You'll receive payment much faster. But guess what, guys? That service fee that you pay for the merchant services is a potential business expense for you guys, right? Which means it's another tax deduction. So it's important to manage cash flow, and that's why we spent a little bit more time on this one. So on this one, for your liquidity and planning.
I'm sorry. I was over here talking and I was on mute. I was answering a question in the Q&A box. So as it relates to liquidity, thank you, Ivan, for jumping in. We always like to make sure that our clients have things structured correctly. So when it comes to liquidity, your current cash needs, and this is timed by 0 to 6 months, you want to make sure that you're preserving the principal and it's highly liquid. What liquid means is that you have access to it, that you can go to a bank, pull it out right then and there, and take care of any of the needs that you need it for. So the strategies for this would be in a bank deposit account or a money market account, and is used for daily expenses, liquidity needs of that nature. So what that means is maybe like your operating account, your payroll account, things that you would need access to in 0 to 6 months. And we want to make sure this is low risk, no risk at all, actually, because you need those funds on a daily basis. The second part of the pyramid is your short-term cash needs, which would be 6 to 12 months. And we want to make sure that we're enhancing the return of the cash and it still is liquid. So the strategies for this would be some type of CD, maybe a 6-month to 12-month CD, or a short-term fixed income, still low risk to no risk associated with this account as well, and making sure that it's for semi-permanent allocation for large expenditures. And then the third part of this pyramid is core fixed income planning, so 12 to 18 months. And we want your funds to grow. I think Ivan mentioned that he had a client who had all of this cash in one account and they didn't have it separated out. So this pyramid allows you to understand how you should have your funds separated out. And the strategies for the core fixed income planning is like laddering CDs. So you may have a CD that matures in 7 months, another one that matures in 12 months, another one that matures in 18 months. So it's becoming available for you over time, but you may have a little bit of risk associated with these funds because you can have them invested in some type of fixed income. I don't know if you guys are aware of what's going on in the market. So anytime that you have funds that you're going to need access to, you definitely don't want to put them at risk because the market is super volatile right now. So we definitely wanted to show this to you so you can understand how you should allocate as it relates to your liquidity planning needs as well. And on this slide, we want to discuss any type of risk that the business may face. So factors that might influence your financial risk. When you think about opening up a business, there's so many things that can come your way. I will tell you, 2020, no business owner was expecting COVID. No one was expecting COVID for that to be back, okay? But it happened. And some business owners were prepared because they had money in savings when we had to shut down the economy, and then some business owners were not. So we have to make sure that we're managing and evaluating all type of risks that can be associated when it comes to opening up a business, and try to manage that as much as possible. And those risks can include any threat to your business, competition, what we just went through with COVID and kind of being prepared for that as well, and easily adapting. Ivan stated, right now we're in a world where technology is so big. I don't use cash anymore. Everything is literally on my phone. I have Apple Pay and I love it. I even ask, do you have Apple Pay? I kind of frown up when companies don't, that's just me being me. But I just love the fact that it's so convenient that everything pretty much is at the tip of my hand. Tap 2 on the side, put my face up there or put my ID in, and I'm out of the door, right? But it also allows me not to interact or engage or pull out a card or touch multiple things, especially in the environment that we're in. So making sure that we manage the risk, understand that we have to make adjustments quickly, and we have to grow as things are changing, as technology is changing, and making sure that we're keeping up with any risk factor as well. This is the slide where I wanted to talk a little bit about insurance coverage, making sure that you have an umbrella policy, making sure that your business is covered properly, that you are covered properly. Because if something happens to you, that's a huge risk for your business. So making sure you understand how you want your business to transition if something was to happen to you as it relates to disability insurance, long-term care insurance, and even life insurance. So we're managing the risk and we're managing expectations as well with our associates, our families, in as we grow our business as well. All right.
Fun
So
part.
this is the fun part of the presentation. I see that you guys are in the chat box, you're interacting with each other, and I love that so much. I love the energy, I love the questions that we're getting. So what we wanted to do was interact with you guys, make sure that you're understanding terminology. I think terminology is extremely important, and sometimes we can get caught up in our bank terms that we don't really kind of, explain it in detail. So what we wanted to do was play a matching game with you guys to make sure that you understand the knowledge that we share with you today and understand the terminology. So I'm going to read the first, and then Ivan will go back and forth on this. So the first one is, and just throw your answers inside the chat box. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the choices here. So the choices involve equipment loans, SBA loan, unsecured revolving lines of credits, term loans, secured in loans. So the first matching game is secured against your assets as collateral, giving some security to the lender. Throw it in the chat box. What do you think that is? Okay, all right, Miss Linda, all right, we have secured loan, and that is correct. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ivan?
Second, supported by your credit worthiness and obtained without the use of collateral. Who wants to take a guess on that one? Supported by your credit worthiness. What do you think, Lee?
Unsecured.
There you
Because
go.
it's supported by your credit worthiness. So
Correct.
if it's supported by your credit worthiness and we are not taking anything as collateral, it is unsecured. We're not securing it with anything. The third one is paid off a fixed interval over a set period of time. So if you pay something off in fixed intervals over a set period of time, what will that be consisted of? Hey, term loan. Thank you, Miss Erica. That is correct.
Good job, Dwayne. There you go. Reduces risk for lenders, making it easier for business owners to get a loan if they don't qualify for traditional financing. If they don't qualify, there you go. Good job.
SBA. All right. Helps finance the cost of equipment by spreading out the cost. Equipment loan.
Very good. That one was kind of in the question. One-time lump sum extension of credit paid through periodic consistent installments. One-time lump sum extensions.
Correct. Loans. That is correct. And then the last question is a flexible option, where a set borrowing limits is extended to the consumer and funds can be borrowed again later after the money is repaid. It is revolving. So revolving is constantly revolving. We can use it, pay it, use it, pay it back. Awesome job, everyone. Good job. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you.
They should be teaching us. That's sharp.
They are.
So this is borrowing solutions for business. Remember how we talked about cash flow, right? And we talked about how sometimes borrowing or having business credit is important. So it is important to build business credit for future expansions like lines of credit and loans. All business loans and lines, credit cards, require a guarantor. Remember that T and I were talking about how usually when you involve a business, when you wanted to get credit, the business itself, right, is the borrower. You, as the owner, are guaranteeing that the business will be able to repay in the eyes of other financial institutions. So therefore, that's why you're the guarantor. And again, it tells you it's the individual or the partners who have a vested interest in the business. And typically, banks require anyone who owns more than 20% of the interest in the business to individually guarantee the loans or line of credit. So if T and I own 50% each, I can apply on my own usually because some banks will allow it, other banks will, but as an example, some of the other banks require that 80% ownership is present within the application. So T and I will both have to apply together because it has to be at a minimum of 80% of ownership, even though each of us own more than 20%. I wanted to clarify that. So you can have folks that have ownership more than 20%, but check again, going back to the guidelines mentioned by T earlier, what changes have occurred in the business lending process within your bank or the financial institution you want to go to see how many individuals have to apply if there's more than one business owner, okay? And some of the different credit options for businesses. Credit cards, we mentioned those are for, short-term, expenses that I can be able to pay off within a month or two just to kind of tide me over and maintain cash. Secured loans, okay? Those could be secured by assets within the business, cash that is within the business. Some of the, that we can use, for example, or as mentioned earlier, certificate of deposits. We can use that. We can use your truck or commercial autos, for example, to provide cash for you as a secured loan. Equipment loans. Any equipment that you need. If you are a graphic designer and you are also a print shop, so the printing presses, if any of you have ever worked, they're very expensive. You name it. Oh, I need a commercial lawnmower. Very expensive. We do those types of loans. SBA guaranteed loans. One of the most famous ones as an example that I can give is PPP right now. So the Payroll Protection Program loans that recently were done to help you business owners out there during this difficult time. That came and was backed by the SBA. So the banks were providing the funding, but the SBA was guaranteeing those loans. And the best example of that is some of those are forgivable. So make sure if you apply for your PPP, apply for the forgiveness, okay? And then unsecured loans or unsecured line of credit. So a line of credit, going back to the earlier example, the 20% ownership. So here, a line of credit is designed for covering cash flow shortages on a short term. You don't want to sit there and buy a new, Ford F-350 as a contractor on a line of credit. That will be better suited as a equipment loan or a commercial, business loan, right, or a business truck loan. Why? Because lines of credit are designed to help you cover between receivables, and unsecured loans are there also, depending on the creditworthiness of the guarantor, and more importantly, on the business revenues shown on the last 2 years, more than likely, of your tax returns. In addition to that, they will be asking you for items like a personal financial statement, in addition to your business and your personal tax returns. Why? Because you're looking at the viability. It's not just the bank's risk. We can't give you guys a loan as business owners or even on the personal side if we're going to put more stress on you. Our job is to help you, not to stress you out. So when they ask you because I get a lot of business owners, they're like, man, Ivan, you're asking me for everything but a blood sample, man. And I tell them, I was like, that's because we want to make sure, yes, of course, repayment, it's reality, right? Taking the elephant out of the room. But we're more concerned that we do not want to stress you more than what you're capable of based on your ratios, okay? So all of these will be dependent on some of these are potential more documentation, and some of these are not, but a lot of it is dependent upon the amount that you apply for, okay? So talk with your bankers. Believe it or not, we're here to help you. Come in. We love to talk to you, especially me. I love to talk. If you haven't told that already. So come in. We want to know about what's going on, and we want to grow with your business. Okay? So let us know. So we included here, this is just more of a kind of a high overview of some of the resources available to you through Truist. If you go to truist.com, we have many different ways, from tips to taking control of your finances, some of the financial relief options for you. It included former payroll protection program, how that worked, connect, and how you cultivate confidence in a difficult time. So please take advantage of going to Truist and discussing and looking at these, because you always take the time for yourself Always take the time for your business. When you're at home and you're able to relax, or you're taking that lunch break in between that hot other sun at work from doing your business, go in, invest a little bit of time in yourself, and that's why we included resources, so that way you learn or you grow in your knowledge, and you learn a little bit more to help you guys in your business. And then one of the things that we're promoting right now, Truist just developed a website called Money and Mindset. It is your financial journey is unique. Your goals are too. So I love that sentence, because not everyone is the same. Not every business owner, just because there's landscapers, there's general contractors. I'm telling you, everyone, even though they may seem the industry is the same, everyone is different. That's the beauty of our humanity. We're all different ourselves, right? So this is one of the websites within Truist.com. If you click on it, it kind of shows you not only the business, but the personal side and how they connect, but also guides you through the process of developing accounts, how to manage those accounts, and to be able to control the finances that we talked about earlier. So please visit Truist.com/purpose, money and mindset.
And I'll add on that money and mindset. You don't have to go back to it, but I absolutely love it, because it just has so many different resources for individuals to utilize as it relates to creating their personal goals and their mindset. So I think so often it's hard to try to change that mindset, but going on this website and seeing the tools, share it with your friends, your family, and make it something fun that we continue to have the conversation about generational wealth, changing the narrative about generational wealth as well. I utilize this all the time. I share this with friends and family, and they enjoy it as well. So we are going to open it up for questions. Don't be shy.
This is you time right now.
This is your
That's what
time.
we're here for.
Wow, Ivan, T, first, let me thank you both. This has been a very informative webinar, and I think that you both have shared a lot of great detail, a lot of great nuggets, and a lot of great bits of wisdom. And I definitely appreciated the matching game there, because I was going through and I was answering them myself. Even though I have the answers over here, I was trying not to look. But really do thank you both for this information. There were a ton of questions that came in as you all were speaking. There were some questions that T went ahead and answered in the Q&A, but we're going to review some of those actually here in a second. But first, I have a couple of questions that came in prior to the webinar. First one is, should I place, when I set up my business bank account, should I place some type of a daily transactional limit on my business bank account in order to help control the cash flows?
Well, in your bank accounts, the way that the bank looks at it is usually based on available balance. They're already preset limits, for example, on your business debit card that comes in. So, for example, a $5,500 limit. You could set those if you need to increase that. I had one client that needed to buy a commercial generator for a particular job that was $7,500 at the moment, and he came in and we had to increase his limits. Now, the thing is, you can't really set, in most banks, you can't really set a limit of expenditures on a daily basis, because again, it's based on your available balance. We don't want to stop you from spending, buying supplies for $2,000 when you have, $5,000 available to you. What if you need to go over, right? What you can do is use the technology, meaning the online banking and bill pay, to set alerts to be able to kind of advise you when a certain amount has been spent. Or if something is happening in your account, we'll automatically send you text messages or email to let you know. So that way it prompts you to go immediately into your online banking app or on your computer at home to kind of analyze what that charge was about. Because that's another thing that, that we need to mention is, at least at a minimum, once every 3 days, go into your bank account and just take a look at your recent transactions. In the world of technology now, you never know. You always want to protect your accounts, which is another reason why you also want to have a secondary account to see the spending that is coming out of the account. Do you recognize some of these transactions? So we don't block you for limits. You can't set limits on daily expenditures. You can on business credit cards, though. So if I'm your employee and you want to assign me a credit card because, I'm a contractor, I work for you, and I'm going to go, or an employee, excuse me, and I'm going to go work for you, and I have to put gas in the company car, you can assign set limits for that credit card to kind of control the line of credit there, but not for the physical cash sitting in your account, if that answers your question.
Thank you, Ivan. And another question that came in, and T kind of alluded to this earlier, there's all sorts of different ways that we can access the money in our accounts, our personal and banking accounts. You have, Apple Pay, you have, direct debits going into your account. Do you recommend that business owners have a little bit more control over their business banking accounts rather than opening it up to all these different ways to access your money?
And I think I heard, and I can chime in here, I think I heard the question. And just to confirm, you're saying, should they limit how accessible their business account is with the different applications?
That's correct. With the applications, with the users, with the way that you pay for some of your expenditures, I've heard of folks that set up auto pay and forget about it. And, in their cash flow, they haven't been managing. And next thing you know, they've overdrawn their account.
Right.
What do you recommend for those folks that are trying to balance it all, but still need a little bit more control?
Gotcha. That is, I personally, how I operate is I use the business credit card merely because, number one, that has a limit on it. And then number two, once again, I'm getting reward points. This year, I became very strategic on how I spend money. So I have a personal credit card and I have a business credit card. And I know what my budget is every single month. And I always tell my clients, you have to do a personal budget, you have to do a business budget as well. So understanding the expenses that are coming out of your account every single month, as far as like a website fee, gas that you have to put in for whatever your employees or things of that nature, is very important. But for me, how I operate is I put everything on a credit card. I understand what my budget is per month for that business credit card. And then I turn back around and pay it off every single month. So what people are having access to, and it helps out when it comes to hacking, right? Because we're in a world of scamming and hacking and all of those things. They have that credit card and that's it. But they don't have access to the funds that are in the account. So here at Truist, you may have an everyday expense account, operating account, but we do offer business credit cards that you can utilize in every single week or every single 2 weeks. You can turn back around once you get those payments and pay that credit card off. So you're not exposing yourself to more risk by having your account number out there, but you're also using a debit card as well. And then you're getting the reward points too for whatever you want to use them for.
Okay, and my apologies, I accidentally hit the wrong mute button there, Ivan. But we had another question that just came in where it looks like T just provided a response. And one of the users here, they said, do you need a personal credit rating to obtain business credit? And T, do you mind elaborating on that response there as well as I?
Yes, absolutely. So as it relates to, there's two factors, okay? So here at Truist, we always require, and I think Ivan talked about it, a personal guarantor. So if personal credit is not where it needs to be, and you're wanting to open up something just solely under the business, here at Truist, we will require, and a lot of banking institutions will require you to be a guarantor, meaning that your personal credit will, especially if you're a new business starting out, they want to make sure that your credit worthiness to have some type of loan or credit card. There are institutions out there that would allow you to just do your business tax ID number, but still at the same token, that business needs to develop some type of credit and be around for a while. And you don't have to tie your social security number attached to it being a new entity. I don't think I'm at privilege to share that company's name, but Google is always your friend.
Can I elaborate on that
Yes.
as well, Steve? So, in the perfect segue going into Google, because go out there and search companies that offer alternative credit underwriting for businesses. I know personally of a few businesses here in the area that offer alternative credit where, a lot of the banks will require normally that you have at least 2 years of established business tax returns, right? But many of our starting businesses, they're very good at what they do. They are producing a good cash flow, but they just haven't met that time period yet. There are companies out there that will offer small loans using alternative assets. So for example, you do have a commercial car, a commercial truck, that has value. That based on your receivables, that have value. They know that you're about to get a certain amount of money, so they're willing to lend you a certain percentage. So, do the research. Going earlier, and as I mentioned, take time to invest in yourself and in your business about learning your alternatives, because you will get to a point where you'll have 5 years business tax returns and then be able to apply for greater and bigger things, right? For bigger equipment, bigger loans, because I'm buying a commercial property, so on and so forth. So to T's point, Google is your friend.
And we've seen some community development financial institutions, CDFIs, that have helped out some of our small businesses as well. So that's definitely a great resource to have at your disposal. There was one more question. I know that we're running out of time and we want to get our Truist bankers back to work. They have bankers hours and we don't want to interfere with that.
Yeah,
Please don't get me back to work. I'm okay.
We get up. Look, we get off at 5. No, I'm just kidding.
It always amazes me. Anytime I go to a bank, that door is locked at 5 o'clock. So there was a question.
We're inside. I promise you, we're inside still working. I promise.
Yeah, I see the cars out there, but they won't let you in. There was a question about having subordinate accounts linked to your main account. Can you share a little bit more about, the I guess the usefulness of having those accounts tied to your main account?
Well, the subordinate accounts are good, or are secondary accounts, so are good to have, as one main example that I deal with every day as overdraft protection. We all love to pay the wonderful overdraft fees to our banks, right? So it's usually best to have something to cover, right, those shortfalls. It ties right back into the earlier conversation. I can use another business checking account, the one that I was conserving for tax, payroll, or anything that I know I have a lot of cash in there as a just in case, I have a shortfall in my main operating account. So you can attach them together. And as busy as you business owners are, you may not get, to my point earlier, come home after working 12 hours and sitting in front of a computer saying, oh, I forgot I have 3 payments coming out here, and I also have to cover here. 9 times out of 10, your only concern is the time to turn your brain off and relax. So having that subordinate account attached to the main operating account, if there is a shortfall, instead of you having to pay those wonderful overdraft fees, and I hope you read the sarcasm in that, automatically that money is transferred directly into your main operating account. You don't worry, some banks will charge you a small fee to do it, but trust me, $12.50 is much better than $36 fees. Right. So having that subordinate account is good for that as well.
And I'll add, having another account is good just in case that first main account get hacked and you have to shut it down. So having another account where you can operate out of, and how I answered that question was having a general operating expense, a payroll account, a savings account, having them all linked together that if one account, overdrafts, it pulls from the next one. But also your online banking would allow you to really manage all of those accounts in one setting.
Absolutely. And in addition, I forgot to mention, some banks will reward you for this, because depending on the type of accounts that you have for these subordinate accounts, they'll take the total out of all of the accounts, not just because I get this question a lot. If, what is my minimum balance that I got to keep in this one particular account? And I tell them, well, if you have these other accounts and we tie them in together as a form of relationship, it allows you to do more transactions. It allows you to deposit more cash to avoid other fees as well, like these analysis fees that you have to pay if you deposit more than your allowable amount of cash every month. So there's benefits to subordinate accounts, because sometimes the more accounts that you have, the bank also rewards you by giving you more privileges and more transactions that you can do on an every month basis. But I love T's point. One of the biggest stressors right now is that security piece. going back to my client earlier, we're meeting tomorrow to open up that business account. Hopefully, he comes. But he indicated that, yeah, he's definitely coming because he never thought about that. What happens if his accounts get hacked? You have so much money in there, now you don't even have access to it because it's either frozen or the money's gone. And no worries, the banks will protect you. We do have a fraud claims team. We have processes to be able to protect you, but it takes time to recoup that money. So why go through that stress? Prepare when you have an opportunity.
Great responses, you two. Again, you've been great. And I want you to know that the USBC thanks you all, thanks you both for being here today, for sharing and pouring into our business owners. Many of our business owners are located across the United States, but as Ivan mentioned, if you want to have that Truist experience, go and visit truist.com and find a branch near you and develop a relationship with these Truist bankers. So we have to close it out for today. And again, I want to thank Ivan and T. They have been great. And before we do that, I just want to share a little bit of information about the USBC. Today's event was actually provided by USBC's Community Economic Development Corporation, sponsored by the USBC, and of course, fully supported or in part supported by our Truist sponsors. So we definitely appreciate them. We want you all to, after you leave here today, go out and visit usblackchambers.org/webinars and make sure that you take a look at some of our on-demand content, as well as our future webinars that are coming up. We do have Black Business Month that's starting up in August. And so we're going to pour out a tremendous amount of content to help our businesses thrive and succeed. So we definitely want you all to take advantage of that. Last thing I'm going to say is to make sure, again, to go out and visit usblackchambers.org website, and you can even join USBC if you're not a member of USBC, or you can find a way to join a local chamber that's affiliated with USBC. We also ask that you attend some of our weekly webinar series that's coming up. I mentioned that Truist has taken over our Thursday's Edge in August, and they're going to have 2 Thursday's Edge events where you can take advantage and learn about financial planning, succession planning. You can learn about developing a relationship with a banker at this Thursday's Edge. So definitely want you all to tune in and take a look. Again, on behalf of our president, Ron Busby, our board, our staff, I really do appreciate you all for tuning in, and a special thanks to our Truist representatives. I want you all to have an enjoyable day and a great weekend, a great and safe weekend, and we'll see you next time at USBC. Thank you all.